Yo, what up, Night Nation? Haven't done a little podcast in a while and wanted to kind of talk about the state of UCF football. I did a video like this back in Heupel's final year. I also did one of these last year when, Malzahn was, pretty much on his way out. And I felt it was prudent to do another video just to get my thoughts out. Obviously a little cathartic here, but obviously last night's loss was another just heartbreaker. There's been two like that this year. Obviously, the Houston game last night, where we had a lead, even had a chance to tie it at the end and blew it. And then, of course, the Kansas game, also same thing, had a two touchdown lead at one point in that game. At the end of the game, had a chance to tie it, blew it. So, you're looking at it and, UCF falls to 4-5 and a very pathetic 1-5 in conference play. And, this now feels like just on repeat these type of seasons. UCF is about to, unless a miracle happens, going to have their third consecutive losing season. That has not happened for UCF in their FBS era. So this is kind of an unprecedented low for UCF. Not to say that they've always been amazing and having a bunch of winning seasons strung together, but they've never had this type of, basically below average losing type seasons for this long. Obviously, it started with Malzahn, is when things really started to go downhill. Kind of want to take it back to UCF was at a all-time high as a program in that 17-18 era. Obviously, the 25 game winning streak, the huge win over Auburn, top 10 ranked seasons, and everything was looking good for them. They were being talked about as a team that was going to get called up into a power league. There was a lot of national attention. There was a lot of guys going to the NFL, a lot of great recruitment and excitement around UCF. But then when Malzahn got here and also Terry Mahadra got here, obviously that aligns. They got here pretty much at the same time. Terry hired Gus, is really when the downfall of the UCF football and athletics program started. Yes, that coincided with moving into the Big 12, where it was a step up in competition, but that was where we started to see some cracks. And, it started with great Malzahn's first year at UCF was solid, 9-win year, beat Florida in the bowl game. But after that, it really started to just go downhill. Um, the first year in the Big 12 is honestly the best year that we've had since entering the Power Five. We got 6 wins and we were the only new team to make a bowl game that year. But since then, we followed that up with a 4-win season, and now it's looking like probably another four, at best, 5-win season. Back to back seasons missing a bowl. And on top of that, our our former conference mates, brethren, people that are supposed to be on equal level as us, Houston, Cincinnati, BYU, and I would even throw SMU in there. I know they're in the ACC, but we were all, not BYU, but the rest of those teams were all in the American and Conference USA together. They've lapped us. SMU has already made a college football playoff. BYU is undefeated and has had back to back top 10 ranked seasons. Cincinnati and Houston, who are much closer to us, I would say comparably, have been ranked this year. I mean, Houston's 8-2, Cincinnati's right up there. They're both, in the top of the Big 12 standings. And we're looking up at them, and it's frustrating to see this type of downfall for UCF. Part of it obviously has been coaching. Part of it has been just the natural hiccups that come with transitioning from a league like the American to the Big 12. Some of that is understandable, but we're in year three, and after this, we'll be going to year four. It's time to start turning it around. It's time to start showing that we can hang and we weren't the wrong choice to be brought up and we're not just some bottom feeder. We're not going to be I know it's a bad example now, but like the Vanderbilt of the Big 12 before Vanderbilt was good, obviously. someone like that, or not just being a perennial, even middle of the pack team. We want to be a contender. Um, and I think, I didn't realize how much the athletic director really plays a part in this. I know he's not on there making coaching decisions and recruiting the talent, but Terry Mohajir, since his arrival, yes, again, it's coincided and he helped, usher UCF into the Big 12. But all of UCF's primary athletic programs are down under Terry. And, again, it coincides with the Big 12, but baseball, basketball, football, there's been a lot of apathy in all of the main kind of sports, all the main, big sports. And, but it starts with football. That's always been UCF's best program. And, what we're seeing right now is a lot of apathy in the fan base, a lot of distrust for UCF being able to turn this around. Um, I mean, we lose our first space game. The home field advantage that we used to have, the bounce house was some feared place. That has not been the case at all for UCF, um, in the Big 12 era. They've had a couple home wins, maybe 3 or 4 home conference wins overall, and in the Big 12 era, that is, and that whole fear that we would have the filling out the bounce house and making it electric, it's gone. And part of that is because of the fan base apathy, and part of it is just because UCF has not been, playing well. I mean, overall, UCF is 6-18 in Big 12 play since joining in 2023. Um, and they've gotten 4 conference home wins to show for it. So it's been really, I think, tough to see this downfall, and I think it starts with Terry Mohajir. He's known as I guess, a very good, money maker in terms of raising funds and raising donations. But what has he done with that money? It's not translating to on-field success or on-court success. Um, you have to look at him. He's the one that's hiring the coaches. He's the one that's dictating funds. And it just doesn't seem like it's doing anything. All that goodwill and momentum, I talked about this in these other videos that I've done, as far as the state of the UCF program, it's gone. All that goodwill, all that momentum, all that national attention, all that being the sleeping giant, it's gone. And to be honest, I'm very concerned about where the football program is headed. If we look at things in a vacuum in just this one year, sure, Scott Frost is in his first year. Yes, he has to get his guys. He's primarily dealing with, mostly Gus leftovers and then, the 70 transfers that he brought in. So it's a mishmash of stuff. He doesn't have his, quarterback that he got out of high school yet, right? He doesn't have the offense that he would recruit from scratch year after year, right? Um, but there's still some concern. This year, UCF is lacking talent, but there was enough right now to easily have wins over Kansas and Houston. There's no question. We were leading those games, and we could have won both of those games. And honestly, you have to blame it on the coaching staff. Kansas, he made the horrible decision to run it up the gut 4 times in a row with a chance to tie at the 1 yard line, when it wasn't working. And then last night, bringing in Davy Belfort when he's ice cold on the final drive, like it looked good at first with the runs. He made some things happen on the offense that Taven Jackson clearly could not do, and Taven continued to just stumble. Um, offensively, and the team was sputtering. So sure, bring in Davy. Don't do it in the last 2 minutes when he's ice cold and hasn't played all year. Do that beginning the second half, third quarter. And he made some good plays with his feet. But let's talk about it. He fumbled the ball, and luckily we jumped on it. And then he throws an interception. I mean, I get it. Scott Frost said he wanted to go for the win there, but come on, take the tie. You're at home. At least you have a chance. On the 25-yard line with the way he was running, In overtime with college rules, he could have probably ran in for a touchdown, gotten enough yards there. We wouldn't have to really rely on passing. You're not starting from the 20-yard line on the opposite side. Um, so it's frustrating knowing right now we could be 6-3. And instead, we sit at 4-5. We could have 3 conference wins. We could be really, really excited about this season. And the question is, we were all excited. Most people were excited when Frost got here. But you have to look at, you know, now it's the warts that we saw at Nebraska from him are starting to show. We look at Frost through the prism of 2017. He brought us all the fields, every good, amazing moment in UCF history, or the best moment in UCF history was under his guidance. We will never forget that. It was almost like, when he left, we always look back at that. Man, what if he would have stayed? We always looked at him through an amazing light because that feeling of that 2017 season cannot be topped. It was the most amazing feeling as a fan, as a diehard UCF fan, and that we've been trying to replicate ever since. So bringing Frost back naturally brought all the good feels. But when you look at it, Scott Frost is very well known for his tenure at Nebraska, where he went 5-22 in games decided by 8 points or fewer. When you combine now UCF with the 2 seasons before that he was at UCF and then the one now, he's 9-25 in one-score games. Um, so the question becomes, like, did we catch lightning in a bottle with him in 2017? All these things aligned. His offense with all of O'Leary's players, essentially, or a lot of O'Leary's, and it just created and combined for a perfect storm. I don't know. But last night, I don't think he made good coaching decisions. Again, the Kansas game, I don't think he made good coaching decisions. I think all year there's been some questionable play calling and how he's running the offense and some of the decisions he's making. Again, you do have to look at the fact that this is year one. Look, I'm going to be a little negative, a little positive. Okay. The positive is this is year one. I do believe in Scott Frost as a recruiter. I do believe in the coaching staff he's brought in, guys like Sean Beckton, to develop the players that he gets that are his guys. I do believe in him as a talent evaluator. Yes, this is year one. Yes, he needs more time. Yes, we were expecting a 5 or 6 win year. So really, we're on exact path or track that we expected. But when coaching essentially cost you 2 games where you could be ahead of schedule, that's where it's frustrating. That's where warts start to show and you get concerned about the future. So that the positive is, it is year one. There's been some good things. We got 2 Power 4 wins. And we know that Frost is going to recruit and bring in his guys and all that. But on the flip side, I don't know if that changes his coaching ability in close games. I don't know if that changes his questionable decision making. Maybe a quarterback on an elite quarterback that recruits covers all that up, like Cam at Auburn with Gus, or maybe McKenzie with Frost in 17. Maybe it does. And if you win, you win. Doesn't really matter what's going on. But it's definitely concerning. You know, will he be able to turn this around? I think my concern about the future and the state of the UCF football program, not the 2025 Knights, but the UCF football program is this thing going to get better? I'm not saying every year is going to be 3 or 4 wins, but are we going to be like I don't know, a Maryland, a Georgia Tech, where it's like you're a Pitt, and those might even be too strong. Maybe Maryland or Rutgers, something like that, where you may get 6, 7 wins on an average season, throw in a couple bad ones, and then once every 6, 7 years, you have like that 10-win year and you're competing for the conference championship. That pretty much puts you in middle of the pack, middling program territory. And that's not what we wanted. We were supposed to be the sleeping giant that's a contender, hopefully a contender for a national championship one day. And the question is, as we fall further and further from 17, when you talk about the last 3 years, we've gotten worse and worse. We went from we went, we'll say 22 from 9 wins to 23 to 6 wins to 4 wins last year to likely 4 wins this year, and quite possibly less conference wins this year. We had 2 last year. I don't know if we get a second one this year. Everyone's saying Oklahoma State, maybe, maybe. Um, it's just getting worse and worse and worse. And it feels as we get worse and college football continues to change, we are falling farther and farther away from relevance and whatever's going to happen in the future. Schools like Cincy and Houston and BYU, they're positioning themselves for the future. They were able to become good in a power conference by year 3, BYU by year 2. Cincinnati was turning it around last year in year 2, and now they have. We don't seem anywhere near turning it around, nowhere close to it. I mean, next year would be like a quote unquote good year would be like 6 wins or 7 wins. That's not turning it around. That's like, yeah, that's improvement, I guess, but it doesn't look like we're anywhere near contention. Maybe next year we're a bowl team, but that's middle of the pack. We're nowhere near close to contention. And that's what concerns me as NIL gets crazier and crazier. The transfer portal gets crazier and crazier. And we seem to be barreling towards a 2 league super conference thing, basically, without lack of a better way of saying it, where there's going to be the Big Ten and there's going to be SEC and there's going to be everyone else. And I don't know if UCF went undefeated every single year and that happened, would they still take UCF? I don't know. But I know that losing is not going to help our case into getting into, Super League or whatever happens. It just feels like you're seeing it already. The Big 12, they've gotten one team into the playoff every year. It's only going to be one guaranteed spot. Does that spot eventually go away and we're basically in a lesser conference? And even with just one spot, that makes it like you got to be really good year after year in order to get that one spot. And it just feels like every single loss just deteriorates our hope and our ability to be a contending team in the future. It kills momentum, recruiting, fan base, fan base loyalty. Like it creates a lot of apathy, and that's the frustrating part. I mean, we've been essentially bad now going on almost 4 years, and we haven't been able to compete for anything relevant really since 2019, maybe when we were 10 wins. There was a chance there we could have gotten into the Cotton Bowl or whatever it was. Um, so yeah, it's definitely concerning. And as a UCF fan, I find myself, feeling more and more apathetic about our prospects for the future. Yes, I'm willing to give Frost time. Yes, I'm willing to, see how it plays out. But I have lost a lot of confidence in this program, especially under Terry Mohajir. I don't know, if a new AD comes in, that may change things. It may not. But I know that I've lost a lot of faith in Mohajir, and I haven't necessarily lost faith in Frost yet, but I am concerned about how he's coaching this team and if we only just caught lightning in a bottle in 2017. So, for me, the state of the program is very concerning. The most concerned I've ever been. I even under the Heupel and Malzahn era, I had hope. I saw the recruiting. I saw the high flying offense under Heupel. I saw the recruiting under Malzahn, and there was some hope there. Right now, I have very little hope. It feels like we are going to have a lot of trouble turning this thing around, and I don't know that just getting in Frost guys that will do that. So I'm hoping, I still have some obviously hope, but it's deteriorating by season by season by season. And last night was just kind of almost a nail in the coffin. 8-0 in space games, dominant. And that was like the last remaining thing that we've been hanging on to, and that's gone. The home, the home record, the home field advantage gone. The space game advantage gone. You know, being bowl eligible for what was 6, 7 straight years, gone. Being nationally relevant, gone. So I'm hoping that, Frost getting in his guys getting a quarterback, getting more time meshing, building the culture that which I will give him credit, he is doing that again, will turn this thing around, but I'm very, very skeptical about it. So I'm curious about your guys' thoughts. Last night was obviously just super demoralizing. Every loss starts to feel more and more like a gut punch. Um, and not only on top of the loss, like under Gus, I expected to lose and get blown out. Under Frost, it's in a sense worse. I expect to lose, but I expect UCF to be in the game, which I guess is a good thing. It's not a blowout, but I knew as soon as Houston got that game tying touchdown, I knew it was over. I didn't even I mean, on that last drive too, when we could have kicked a field goal, I still thought even if we went into overtime, we were going to lose. I mean, that's kind of the mindset I'm in right now. It just does not feel like UCF can get over the hump um, in close games. And that's how this season has gone. I mean, every game has essentially been close outside of the Baylor game so far. But anytime UCF was in a tight battle at end of games, I had no confidence that they could hold a lead or come back down. And a lot of that is, the offense this year. It's pretty horrible. I mean, there's, kind of transitioning into this year from the state of the program. We are a bad offensive team. We don't have a quarterback. The 2026 quarterback is not on this roster right now. I'll tell you that. We're cycling through quarterbacks again, just like we did last year under Malzahn. Um, we don't have an offensive line and we don't have receivers. We just don't have an offense at all. There's not one, I don't think, redeeming quality on this offense. There may be some guys like individual, like Jaden Nixon has had a good year. Miles Montgomery's had a good year. There's been some flashes from young guys like Wade and Charles. There's been some flashes from, tight end transfer like Dylan Wade. There's been some flashes from Kylan Fox. There's even been some flashes from Taven Jackson. But overall, this offense is horrible. The one redeeming quality this team has is the defense, but it can't do it alone. These final three games of the year, I'm not expecting much. I could see us going 0-3, and I could also, I think, at best case, go 1-2 because Oklahoma State is really, really bad. That would be the only other win I see on this schedule. Um, and it's disheartening because I think there was a if we could have just closed out the Kansas or the Houston game, we could very easily be a bowl eligible team this year. And that would have been a very good milestone for year one, something to hang our hats on, something to build on. But now it just looks like another lost season. And that lost season is contributing to what I feel is the state of the program. 3 straight years of this, of getting worse, of fan apathy growing, of zero confidence in leadership, of home field advantage dying, of being one of the most irrelevant teams in the Big 12 with our supposed, you know, teams, programs that are on equal footing as us, lapping us and surpassing us, and us looking kind of like the guaranteed win for every opponent in our conference and being nowhere near close to conference competition, Big 12 title contention. Um, it's super frustrating, and I don't know when it's going to get better. And that's my kind of overall message and concern is I just don't know when it's going to get better. I put a question out there: will we ever win a conference championship? I know it's a little dramatic, but I don't see right now the vision for UCF football and UCF athletics. I don't see it. I don't know where it's heading. That's not to say that, sure, one coach, one AD can turn everything around. We saw that with Danny White and Frost in 17. Sure, even one team could turn around. With in today's transfer portal era, you could again strike lightning in a bottle and get put together an amazing team that gels and does amazing. But that's not a recipe for consistent success. And part of it is UCF is going to need money, and we are not competing financially. Part of it with like the teams I mentioned, Houston, Cincy, BYU. Yes, they have bigger endowments. They have bigger, longer standing fan bases, probably bigger donors. UCF will get a little bit more equal footing with the rev share increase from the Big 12 and getting a full share going into next year. Now that we're, quote unquote, full members of the Big 12. But I don't know. That doesn't necessarily mean we're going to compete with NIL. I mean, these Texas teams, they have way bigger donors. I don't know that we're going to be able to compete financially. And essentially, this is kind of like baseball now. The team that buys the best team wins. That's why you see the Dodgers winning, right? And I don't know if we can compete. That's why you got to be smart with your money. And we do have enough money to compete because we're in a power conference. So we at least have that going for us. We have enough money to get some players, but we're not going to get the best of the best. You're going to have to get really good players and you're going to have to get diamonds in the rough and develop them. And that takes good leadership. And that's where my concern goes. And it takes good vision. And I don't know if we have that right now with UCF athletics, particularly UCF football. So last night was another super frustrating loss. I mean, this season is over. We're gonna have to wait another 8 months to have any sort of hope again, and that's the frustrating part. And I don't know, like I said, if next year is going to be any better. It could be 2 years, 3 years, 4 years before we're exciting and competitive again, and that's only going to kill fan apathy even further. My hope would be UCF somehow finds a way to go 2-1 for the remainder of the year and get to a bowl game and potentially win that bowl game. That would be huge. I don't think that's going to happen. So my hope would be if we can at least win one more, go 5-7, and then you Frost and his coaching staff hit the recruiting trail hard, bring in some really good transfers, work on development of the current players, and get a quarterback in here and really get an offense in here. I think we'll have a defense. Clearly, Alex Grinch has shown to be a good defensive coordinator. I think we have some good young defensive pieces. I think we have some guys coming back. We can be a good defense. You got to get an offense in here. You got to buy an offensive line. You need to get a quarterback, whether it is the one of the two freshmen that verbally committed, whether it's a stud transfer quarterback, you have to get, and then you have to get some receivers in here. I know that's like saying the whole offense, but they got to do that. They got to build an offense because the offense is so pathetic that it is losing us games. And in the Big 12, it's a high flying, high scoring offensive, high octane conference when it comes to offense and scoring. So they got to be able to compete. And with that, curious to get your thoughts. Go Knights, charge on.